Hello and welcome to our interpersonal communications presentation on Generation X. So what is Generation X? Or who is Generation X, so to speak? It is a group of people that were born between 1965 and 1980, putting them between the 44 and 59 years old age gap. The generation's got a ton of different characteristics to describe them, from independent, adaptable, strong work ethic, things like that. And a few of the things that stuck out about Gen X is the increase in divorce rate. It peaked at about 22% because it was more widely acceptable to get divorced and be a stay-at-home parent or a single mom and not just have to put up with stuff like that. And also in the huge technological advances, the platforms in which I'm using to make this presentation wouldn't be available today if not for all the advancements and kickstarting everything back in Gen X in the late 70s and 80s. So what are some common themes and stereotypes that we notice when conducting our interviews with people from Generation X? Definitely family and religious values were very important to all interviewees, especially that of family, and just how important it was to hold your family close and to value the importance of family that they then tried to pass on to the next generations with their kids and grandkids and so on, as well as religious values. Whatever religion or faith that they were brought up in, they tended to hold close to them and want to try to pass that on to the next generations as well. A good misconception that we noticed was common between them was that they were labeled as slackers, when often they're some of the most hardworking people that you'll ever meet. And this could perhaps be because of the way the workforce was changing from more blue-collar based jobs like coal mine and steel mill to more white-collar like business or technology type jobs that the older generation would say, oh, that's a lazy man's job because you're not working with your hands. Another one would be that they were stereotyped into being boomers or just old people, and that's not the case. They are totally different generations that have gone through and dealt with totally different things. So Gen X, not a boomer. Another thing that came up in common was the will for self-improving and improving women's rights in the workforce for the future generations to come. It really all started back then with trying to make it equal for women in the workforce, for sure. So let's look at some potential sources of conflict within the culture. One, for sure, would be the work and life balance. This could be a conflict between them and the older generation, because the older generation, they got up, they went to work every day, all day, that's all they did. People from Generation X, they really wanted to try to have a better balance between a quality of life and just going to work every day. They wanted to more so work to live instead of live to work. Another way, and probably a big one, would be the communication styles, be it slang or jargon that they don't fully understand, that if in a work situation, if they're being given instruction by someone who happens to be younger than them in any of these words and slang that could come up, they don't fully understand, that will definitely cause some confusion, some frustration, and ultimately lead to some conflicts down the road if they're not explained or they don't understand what's going on. Another way would be the digital means of communication, be it text message, social media, what have you. Some people from Generation X and the older generations may see this as unprofessional than just more straightforward talking about any situation, especially in work. And another big one would definitely be all the advancements in technologies that they're having to adapt with and get used to almost on a daily basis. People from the younger generations were born with the type of technology more readily at their fingertips. The younger generation is more used to using computers and smartphones and can adapt to them more quickly, when people from Gen X and the older crew would have more of a slow adaptation to it and possibly get frustrated with having to learn a whole new way of doing something with said piece of technology instead of just saying, hey, I've been doing it this way for years without it, why do I have to relearn a whole new way of doing it? It's just going to slow me down. So how can we improve communication between cultures? We can promote cultural awareness and sensitivity, encourage learning about the different cultures and the traditions and communication styles within them. Look at workshops, seminars, informational exchanges. Ask the person questions so you can understand what they value, what the norms are in their culture. You can also celebrate the diversity. Actively recognize and appreciate the differences that are between these cultures through different events like festivals or fairs and observance of their holidays. Like, what are their holidays and what are they like? You can highlight different practices to help people appreciate the richness of diversity between cultures. Another way that you can improve technology would be patient and open-minded with them. If they're from a different culture and you're explaining something to them that you are used to, that it's a norm for you, and they don't understand, be patient with them. Don't get frustrated. They're not used to it. As well as providing context for communication. Avoid jargon or slang in complex languages that they don't fully understand or they're not used to hearing, unless you provide them with a synonym or explain to them what it means, or use a more professional-based language that all parties understand. And give them time for adjustment. Recognize that adapting to a new culture, a new technology, what have you, it takes time. Be patient with that. And avoid making assumptions. Don't assume someone's going to understand you or your culture or your norms right off the go. Ask. Don't assume. So, summing it all up, after going through the interviews and seeing how everyone's went, it became apparent that Gen X typically holds dear to them their values on family, religion, and hard work, for sure. As well as don't call them slackers and don't call them boomers. The differences in what they hold close to them compared to people today and how they view different situations, what language or slang they use and are familiar with, and the extremely common misconception of being a slacker. It really became apparent that we're not all so different, really. We value a lot of the same things. And we can agree that family is definitely very important, and having to constantly adapt to modern technologies is frustrating. Even if you're from a younger generation that is more familiar with it, we're all still having to get used to something new almost every day. Diverse cultures and co-cultures can learn so much from one another and lead us to all being able to communicate and relate better to each other. And being able to communicate with less frustration, biases, stereotypes, and overall confusion between us just seems like a better situation any way that you look at it, because after all, can't we all just get along? Thanks for watching.